Welcome, everyone. This is Andres Restart. Tonight, we are talking about Nintendo, as we tend to do whenever we get a live stream out. And as the title suggests, we're going to be discussing the insanely good Nintendo Switch 2 lineup we are looking to get based off what we're hearing from the credible places and our own sort of speculation, like the merging of those things. And I mean, I think it's pretty good, right? And I think this discussion is going to extend beyond just the first couple of months. We'll kind of entertain the possibility of other games that we could maybe be seeing in perhaps like the first year or so of the Switch 2, the early life of the Switch 2. And so at some point, I would like to entertain the idea of Star Fox, for example. There's been a lot of discussion on Star Fox lately. Could Nintendo be putting together a Star Fox game and be positioning this game to come out early on for Switch 2? If not in the first year, maybe with sometime within the first 2 years. And the same applies for Donkey Kong as well. I would like to see these IP come out and kind of establish themselves early on as big premier Switch 2 titles and see success, have that evergreen sale. So like whenever someone picks up a Nintendo system or a Switch 2 in this case, they see, oh, what's this Star Fox universe or whatever, or what's this Donkey Kong, I don't know, Amazing Land Country Rover. That's a random name. Point is, like, if people see something like that, they pick it up. And so they kind of have legs for years to come. And so those are some things that I'm just kind of throwing out there, and we'll dig a little bit deeper into why I think maybe Donkey Kong or Star Fox could be in this conversation. But those aren't like the big ones that are believed to be a part of the launch window. We'll be talking about that: Metroid Prime 4, 3D Mario Kart, maybe an updated version of whatever the Pokemon game is that's coming out later this year. So there's a lot to kind of dissect there, I think, and we actually have some solid info. I would say, I think at least, I think it's a pretty good source that I kind of positions things in a way that I've kind of been thinking for a while. If you guys have been following me, I've been kind of bouncing back and forth with something like this lineup. So if you may already know what I'm getting at, but we'll be getting into that as well. And it's a Q&A, right? So it's not just going to be me ranting for an hour and a half to 2 hours straight. It's just going to be, a back and forth, right? So whatever you guys ask or present, we'll discuss that as well. So we can go in different directions. It doesn't have to be necessarily about Switch 2. That's just kind of like the focal point I want for this stream, but we'll see how things pan out. And that's pretty much the plan. But before we go further, guys, gals, everyone, if you could let me know how everything looks and sounds, if I sound okay, if there's anything I can adjust, please let me know now while we're still early on. That way, if there is an issue, it can be addressed, hopefully. I see to start off, we already have about 75 to 80-ish people watching. It's pretty great. If you guys could like this stream, that'd be extremely helpful. I'm not kidding. I'm not saying that. Liking the stream does help. It tells YouTube, oh, okay, this is a good stream. We'll push it. So it is helpful. But looking into the chat, let's see here. Pull this up. All right, that has been pulled up. Okay. From the beginning. Hello there, Hashimie. How are you? Just another person on this website. I'd be happy with a new Switch if it had better performance than the current Switch so I could play Mario Kart with 4 players at 60 FPS. Oh, and themes. I want themes. LOL. I'm on the same page. I want themes. But more so, yeah, I would like to see 60 FPS 4 players. I think that would be a nice little flex of Switch 2. I think it's super doable. Of course, it depends on how ambitious they are with the next Mario Kart game, right? So we'll see. But that is definitely something I would like to see. I will take this moment to kind of complain a little bit about where the industry, the direction of the industry is sort of headed, where we're kind of going further and further away from local multiplayer and more so with online multiplayer. And I mean, on one hand, that it kind of sucks because I like to have like your split screen multiplayers, but on the other, less and less do I find myself having the opportunity to enjoy local multiplayer with people. And so online is usually how I'm going to play my games when I'm playing a multiplayer game. So I do want online games, right? I've been playing both Monster Hunter World with my cousin recently, and Monster Hunter Rise with Brandon, right? And so that's fun. Um, I haven't. I've been playing Power World actually. I actually kind of like it. I don't know how long I'll stick around with it, right? But I haven't even gotten past the tutorial stage, so I haven't put in that much time into it. But you know that game apparently is more fun with people, so maybe I'll dive deeper into that, right? But like for example, I would love to play. I don't like playing Mario Kart online is fine, but it's better with people around you. As the same for Smash, like for sure the same with Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers, like all playing online just sucks. So there's that. But I guess what I'm sort of getting at here is that I can see a scenario where Nintendo may not think too much about getting local multiplayer to 60 FPS just because they may be focused on other things. And so that would be unfortunate. But if they can pull off, 4 player 60 FPS, I would be very happy with that for the few opportunities I'll get to play 4 player Mario Kart with friends and family. But the day will come. I do have game nights with my friends, maybe like once a month or something, and we play Mario Kart or Smash usually. Occasionally Mario Party. So, it's not like it doesn't happen. It just never happens enough. Never enough to my liking. Jordan Cap, I really can't believe Switch never did themes. It would be a super quick, easy buck that we, the customer, would gladly pay just for the customization. Depending on the theme, I might consider dropping $1 or $2. They could definitely squeeze it out of me for sure. Crazy Scoff, hello there. Wade Duel, hello. Malachi Johnson, hello there. Connor Atsby, hi Andres, how's it going? I'm doing well, thanks for asking. Okay, so I know that in last year's February Direct, we got Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Do you think next we could get Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot? Because listen, Andres, like if Kirby Triple Deluxe and Kirby Planet Robot got a full-on remake, then we would have all the modern Kirby games in one console. Yeah, we get Kirby stuff pretty often. I feel like we've touched on this already, so it's definitely one of those could potentially be announced. I don't know if we're gonna get back-to-back years of remasters of Kirby games or remakes. So I would say I'm not expecting that for this Direct personally, but I think something Kirby should be coming soon. Hello there, Sam Talks Games. Hello there, Giancarlo. Giancarlo asks me, how Laboratory is already hiring for next Kirby, and Nintendo's looking for a multimedia software engineer technologies entity is a contract job. I mean, they're always working on Kirby. That doesn't shock me. Hello there, Glazes World. Playing Tears of the Kingdom. Good choice, good choice. Good evening, Super Chris. Hello there, Sky Sword Alyssa. How are you? Yvonne Francois. Good evening. Good evening, Joycey J. Pots Player 2 asks, did you see the rumor about the lineup for a February Direct? If it's true, do you think it changes your prediction of Switch to announce it by March 31st? All right, so this is a two-pronged question. And the short answer to the first part of the question is I don't believe the rumor. But I'm going to explain why, but we'll still entertain the possibility and discuss how this could impact Switch 2 if it's real. But it's probably not real. Just telling you that right now. So let's get into it. So let me see if I can pull up the chat just so it's easier for people to see what we're referencing here. It's always tricky because like I use StreamYard, right, to stream, and so it's its own platform, and I can see chats on there, but I can't see when people at me. Like obviously I see the at symbol and the text, but it's not highlighted the same way as on YouTube. Like so on YouTube, I'm in dark mode, right? I see a black box, and I'll see a whole bunch of white text and your names and icons. But whenever you guys at me, I see a big like orange thing, so it pops out and I see it. But on StreamYard, where it's like the chat just a second time, it's all just, white boxes. But what's cool about StreamYard is that I can pop something in there, right? So, like, for example, Sam said hi. I can just show it, like, there he's saying hi. But I can't, it's harder for me to see when people at me, so I have to find it. That doesn't mean I won't find it. I just need a second. I think I did find it. There we go. Cool. So, there we go, right? Super chats have their own separate comment box. I can always see those and share those because they're all clearly labeled. But anyways, right? So 2 parts to this question. I did see the rumor. All right, so let's first talk about why I think the rumor is not true, and then we'll get into the hypothetical if it is true, right? Because I don't know for a fact. So let's talk about the rumor here. Okay, let me see. I think I still have it up. Some people assumed that was what I was talking about for today's video. It is brought up, but it is not what I was talking about for today's video. All right, so first I'm going to share the rumor, and then I'll get into the debunk. All right, one moment here. I'm going to get the debunk ready. If I can find it. Well, I know where I have it. Put in the sources for today's video. 1 second, guys. I'm just getting all the links together so I can share everything. Okay. I believe I talked about it. Yep. Okay, there it is. All right, I am almost ready to share all of this. Okay. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Now, where's StreamYard? Got it. All right, present, share screen. Okay. So, this is 4chan. All right. And this is what everyone is going crazy about today. The leaks. Fire Emblem 4 Remake releasing in May. Princess Peach Showtime features Cowgirl and Ninja segments. Donkey Kong Country is getting a new game for its 30th anniversary. Metroid Prime 2 Remastered. Aggressive remake of the Zelda Oracle games. The Goodfield game is getting localized. I know what they're referring to. I just don't remember the name of it. And a Famicom Detective Club returns as Nintendo Detective Club. 5 high school girls must solve vicious crimes that they are personally involved with. All right. So the reason why this random 4chan thing has gained credibility, I say that with air quotes, is because this part here, Princess Peach Showtime features Cowgirl and Ninja segments. And the reason this is interesting is because this came out, I guess, a while ago, right? This was the 17th, this was last week. And the trailer for Princess Peach Showtime came out today, and it shows Ninja and Cowgirl Peach. So people are taking this to mean that, oh, they clearly have inside information, so all this other stuff should be true as well. But there are several elements to consider here. Firstly, when it comes to 4chan posts, right, this is just random threads and forums, right? This isn't anyone with a track history. It's a random person. And so when you account for just the sheer amount of people stating hopes or leaks or predictions, there's a large number of them. The 1 or 2 that get it right, those are the ones that people are going to start sharing and talking about. So it could just be a lucky guess. But here's another interesting little tidbit. Let me share this part. All right. Kremlin campaigner, right? They shared this image. This is from the Princess Peach Showtime, the earlier Princess Peach Showtime trailer. And in this image here, you can see a kunai and you can see a cowgirl hat. with the horns and the little thing that goes around. So if you are one that analyzed Princess Peach Showtime, or maybe you watched a trailer analysis, or basically if you're someone who cared enough about Princess Peach Showtime to be paying attention to it with some level of detail, you already probably know that Peach is going to have a ninja costume and a cowgirl costume. They already told us basically with this. And so going back to this leak right here, not only is it possible this just could be one of many that were just lucky guesses, the evidence was already out there for this to be a thing, right? So it's not really, there's not a lot that I take from this, and I'm like, oh, this is for sure a thing. I'm actually pretty skeptical. And excuse me, I'm dying here. I'm not dying, just cough. I'll be fine. There is another reason why to not take this leak too seriously. I'm gonna put this. I'm just getting another thing to share with you all that makes this very unlikely or less likely. And that's, well, DirectV Games had quote tweeted Kremlin campaigner, and then Necrofelipe responded and said, "It's false because next DK will not be country." So the rumor talks about a Donkey Kong Country. Go back to my face now. Yeah, the rumor talks about a Donkey Kong Country game. But here in Necrofelipe, the editor-in-chief at Universal Nintendo, someone who has built up a pretty good reputation, someone who has outlined certain things that have come true already, like Nintendo Direct dates and things of that nature, and has been reporting a lot of Switch 2 stuff and having an inside knowledge, apparently, right? So they're considered to be fairly reputable is the point here. And so here they're suggesting that the next Donkey Kong game is not going to be a country game. And maybe that's something you could already speculate. Like, that is what I've believed, right? That the next Donkey Kong game will not be a country game. And it's possible that they're not even presenting any inside information. They're just assuming that their speculation is correct. But I have a feeling that they're actually, what they're saying is because they know something, right? And so point is that the leak says Donkey Kong Country. There ain't going to be a Donkey Kong Country, right? So if I'm to believe anyone, I'm going to believe Necrofelipe and not a random 4chan post that hasn't stated anything yet that we don't already know. So there you go. It's probably not real. But what's interesting is that we now have this rumor that the next Donkey Kong is not going to be a country game. So does that strengthen the idea that maybe it's a 3D game? It strengthens the idea, but also you can do a Donkey Kong game and it not be country, and it still isn't full-on 3D. One great example, the last time Nintendo internally developed a Donkey Kong game was Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. That was a side-scrolling Donkey Kong game that was compatible with the Donkey Kong bongos, but also the boss fights were in 3D. They went behind the shoulder. It looked really cool. It was a very fun, cool Donkey Kong game, and it wasn't country, right? So point is, we're probably getting a Donkey Kong game that is not going to have the country naming, but we don't know what it's going to be. It could still be a side scroller with some 3D elements. It could be a full-on 3D game. It could be something in between. Not clear yet, but it's not country, and that alone says something. So that's pretty cool. But back to this two-pronged question from Pop Slayer. I don't think the leak is true, right? But hypothetically, let's say it is. Let's say that we are getting a Grezzo remake of the Zelda Oracle games. Let's say we are getting Metroid Prime 2 remastered. We are getting a Donkey Kong Country, a new one, and Fire Emblem 4 remake is coming in May. Would that impact my predictions for Switch 2? Well, I'll tell you this. If that's what the Direct is, I do think people will see the Direct and be like, see, Switch 2 is not coming out anytime soon. The moment Nintendo announces a new game, and that's coming out in the second half of next year, or like people are gonna make that assumption, right? Like it's one game alone isn't gonna change it, but depending on the games. And so looking at this lineup here, Metroid Prime 2 remaster, that wouldn't change anything. Fire Emblem 4 remake coming out in May doesn't change anything either, because we should be getting this remake they've been sitting on for a long while, and I do expect it to be part of the Switch 1 lineup. So that doesn't change anything for me. Aggressive remake of the Zelda Oracle games also doesn't change anything for me. I think there's a good chance we could see a 2D Zelda game come out this year. It's either that or Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD, like either that collection or 2D Zelda. Like that's kind of like my estimation. And so getting announcement for those in a direct does not change anything for me. The only thing that would maybe change something for me is the Donkey Kong Country, right? But Donkey Kong Country, that suggests side-scrolling Donkey Kong game. So maybe a smaller budget, lesser ambitious Donkey Kong game, but still a pretty good, fun, exciting one. That will be just one new game. And so, once everything's said and done, if we get a Nintendo Direct and the only new game that they actually announce is a Donkey Kong Country game, another side-scroller, and everything else is remakes and remasters, I don't think that says much about Switch 2. If anything, it's just like, yep, we're in this phase of mostly remakes and remasters still. Now, if all of these games they announce have dates in the second half of next year, then okay, that's a little different, right? But if all of this just kind of fills up the first half of the year, maybe one or two or somewhere in the second half, that doesn't change anything about my predictions. So even if it were true, it wouldn't change much. But it's not true. I don't think it's true. So there you go. We've covered the rumor. But let me pull up the chat again. All right, moving through the chat. Wyatt Rosebrock. Switch 2 will be gas powered to extend battery life. Gas powered. Wyatt with the leaks. The cold hard facts. Gas power of Nintendo Switch. You heard it here first from Wyatt Rosebrock. That would be wild, and it's obviously a joke, but man, that would be funny. All right, so we got some super chats to get to here and some membership renewals as well. Sam talks about games. I've been a member for a whole year. Thank you for sticking around all this time, Sam. So Sam says, this is my first stream back in a while because I've been in Mexico for 9 days. Sucks being back in Chicago. How'd you enjoy Mexico? I'm glad you're back. Hope you had a great time. And Chicago probably is really cold. Aaron Rass has renewed their membership as well. Well, yeah, they've been a member for a whole month. And Aaron says, I'm primed for this upcoming Direct, wanting a Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3 drop, Metroid Prime 4 trailer. So for my birthday tomorrow, I want a new Star Fox and DK 3D games. Well, Nintendo is in Santa, so I don't know. And also, it's not Christmas. But I do think, those things are all in the conversation, right? Happy birthday to you, Aaron. I'm at least feeling that we're getting something Metroid in the Direct. I don't know that for a fact, right? But that's kind of, I think I'm gonna die on this boat, right? Like I'm gonna take it, Then I'm gonna take this Metroid Prime ship and sink or swim. Metroid's gonna be in the Direct, and what's sad is that I know there's a really good chance it won't be, but it also is a really good chance it could be. So we'll see. I mean, I feel like we have to at least get Metroid Prime 2. Even if Nintendo is going to be extremely quiet and not show Prime 4 until later, I feel like they have to at least show Metroid Prime 2. Like, that, I got to think that. Mr. Dwayne191 with a super chat. Thank you for the super chat. I very much appreciate that. Evening. On the Nintendo of America YouTube channel, Princess Peach Showtime trailer is in English, but other countries are uploaded as well. Europe, French. I noticed that. I thought it was odd, but I was looking through their YouTube channel and I saw that this isn't the first time they've done that. I don't know if it's in error or they just trying to reach other people from that version of the channel. It's a little odd, but I don't really make much of it. It's happened before. And then Chrono Rig has renewed their membership, and they've been a member for 15 straight months. That's pretty good. Thank you for sticking around all this time, Chrono. All right. So continuing on with the chat here, I'm going to try and catch up with the chat, and then I'm going to get into this story about the insanely good Switch 2 launch lineup. Oh, I see we actually have a decent amount of people watching. Yep. That's what the number says. 174 concurrent viewers. We haven't been that high for a while, so thank you everyone for watching. I really do appreciate that. If you'd like to stream, it would be very helpful. But continuing on with the chat. Let's see here. Ricky Lee Norton. Hey, Andres, I hope we get a new 2D Zelda game this year because it's been forever since the last one and has a lot of creative possibilities for future games, like maybe a 3D hybrid Zelda. Remember A Link Between Worlds, how they had the, you would kind of be able to go into the walls? That was an interesting kind of effect, and it had like some 3D graphics to it. And so, yeah, Link Between Worlds is already a little bit of a hybrid, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I would like to see a new 2D Zelda. I would like them to play around with perspective the same way they did it in A Link Between Worlds and go the extra mile. I mean, there is a lot of puzzle opportunity there that could be very fun. But it has been a long time, so we'll see. I don't think that means we won't get anything, right? Like for example, a lot of people were acknowledging that it had been a long time since he had gotten a brand new 2D Mario. But we got Mario Wonder. We're going to get 2D Zelda as well. We just got to be patient. Ronnie Fazio adds me, hey man, it's been a minute, but I highly recommend Prince of Persia Lost Crown for Switch. That game has me addicted. I played the demo, and it didn't suck me in, but I didn't play it enough. I do get a lot of Metroid Dread vibes, and I loved Metroid Dread. So I do want to give it a try. So I probably will eventually give Prince of Persia another try, and not just a demo. I probably just pick up the game. Conceivably when there's a price drop, which usually happens very often for Ubisoft, but we'll see. A lot of it also has to do with other things on my plate, right? Like I've been meaning to play the Pokemon DLC. I haven't yet, and I feel that I should, like, immediately, right? Because we're entering February soon, and the Pokemon Presents is at the end of the month. And so for me as a content creator, in hopes of wanting to cover Pokemon, I should probably play the DLC. I know there are some things in there that may hint at what's to come afterwards, so I gotta play that. Maybe I'll blitz it one of these days just to kind of get it out of my system. I think the other thing is that, like, I keep, like, sometimes it's hard for me to start something, and I don't know, it's like that in general. Like, it could be amazing. I just haven't started it, so my brain's like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just do something else that I know I'll like. It's a trap. So I feel like once I start the Pokemon DLC, I'll probably enjoy it. I just haven't started it yet. And I did enjoy Scarlet and Violet despite all the issues. So it's not like I hate Scarlet and Violet. I just haven't been excited enough to jump headfirst into the DLC. Let's see here. John Carl Addison. Bandai Namco is remastering a 3D game, Star Fox Assault Remaster. We've heard that we've seen hirings for something like that, so it could be Star Fox Assault. I would be really happy about that. Guys, towards Alyssa earlier said that everything looks and sounds great. I appreciate that. Thank you. Ronnie Fazio, Wyatt, thank you for letting me know. Glazers, thank you. I'm only just getting to that part now. It shows how far behind I am in the chat. Joyce, maybe I'll give you a rant. Don't worry. I think one will come up at some point. Yeah, okay. Well, there. See, now the chat just updated, and I just completely lost myself. But I'll get there. I'll find where it was at. All right, let's see here. Hello there, Having Hope. Hello there, Big Fatty. Hello there, Zalato. Wade Duel. I've never tried Power, but I definitely want to. Ignoring all the controversial stuff, like just like looking at the game on its own, right? Like I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding it, but like actually playing, it's a fun game. If you like Ark, you'll like Power World. That's pretty much what it is. Like it's Ark is or Power World is a combination of basically the Ark gameplay trajectory. Like the same way you play Ark is the same way you play Power World, but it has like the Pokemon Legends catching mechanic involved. So instead of hunting dinosaurs or hatching dinosaurs, you're going to catch basically Pokemon, right? They look like Pokemon. They're Pokemon, right? They're called pals, but they're Pokemon. And so I guess one thing is different if you're just a Pokemon fan is that the pals actually help you build everything up. The same way the dinosaurs do in Ark. And they all can take on their own roles. And so they help you kind of build up farms and different things like that. It's a survival game. It's maybe a farming simulator, right? It's like Pokemon farming simulator. It's a combination of that. And then the way you traverse the world is very Breath of the Wild like. You can climb, you have a glider. So it definitely feels like the creators of Power World looked at Ark, looked at Pokemon, looked at Zelda, and combined them. That's what they did. And it's unapologetic about it. But the combination is fun. Like, that's just the truth. And on Steam, it's like for $26, which is not even really that expensive. So, it's fun. And that's it. I don't know if I'll play it forever, but it's fun. Francesco Negroni, hi, love your vids. Thank you. Thank you for enjoying my videos. I appreciate that. Hello there, Captain Doge. Hello there, the M of 52. 10,000 Noodles, you've never heard of Tears of the Kingdom. I think you should give it a try. Yeah, I think you should. I think you might like it. It's a bit controversial, but I think you'll enjoy The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Hello there, Yu. Hello, how are you doing? Thomas Owen asks, when are we seeing Prime 4? I don't know. But lately, I've been... And I got it. I have to concede that there's certainly a bias here, right? Metroid Prime 4 is my most anticipated game. I'm anticipating it more than 3D Mario. I'm not saying I'm going to enjoy it more than 3D Mario. I might enjoy them about the same. I don't know. Metroid, Zelda, and Mario are my 3 favorite franchises. And I'm talking about the mainline games, right? Not the spin-offs or anything like that. But we got 3D World plus Bowser's Fury just not that long ago, and Mario Odyssey in 2017. We haven't gotten a new Metroid Prime game since 2007. It's been a long wait. So I just want to bring that up. My judgment may be somewhat clouded here, but I try my best to be objective. I try. No one can be 100%, and anyone that tells you that they are is lying or is fooling themselves. That all said, the things that have been happening lately are undeniable. We saw Next Gen Dreams, a company that deals with assets and also builds trailers for games, had Retro Studios as a client. And once that was publicized by YouTubers, including Super Metal Deli 64, who made the initial observation, and then people like me afterwards, they took it down. We had the receipts. You can look at the Wayback Machine. It was there. It's no longer there. When we see that people like Edwin Atwell, who have been playtesting at Retro Studios since March of 2023, which essentially confirmed the rumor that myself and Nintendo Prime reported early last year that the game is basically complete, very much the same way Tears of the Kingdom was a year before its release. That suggests the game's been in the quality polishing stage for almost a year, right? So that puts it in a position to release this year, which doesn't surprise us. But they also took down the LinkedIn profile pages for Edwin Atwell playtesting the game. So they're covering these things up. And to me, that just says, oh, there's something to this, right? Like there's something to this. It's not just there. So with the direct happening in February, I am kind of thinking, well, is this finally the time? And I also believe that Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, maybe also Prime 3, but definitely Prime 2 will be in this direct. The reason I believe that, one, Prime 4 has got to be coming soon, right? So they have 2 more Prime games to put out before then. They already put out 1. But on top of that, Jeff Grubb, a known industry analyst, or a known industry journalist, not analyst, a journalist, reported a while back, or heard, I should say, that Metroid Prime 2 is coming soon. This is like, I think, leading up to the September Direct, right? He wasn't necessarily implying there was going to be at the September Direct, just that he heard it's coming soon. And based off the timing of when you heard about Big Boy Remaster Metroid Prime 1 and how that came out in the beginning of last year, might put us around the timing of Prime 2 to be in this Direct. And with that possibility, right, if Nintendo were to showcase Prime 2, I just have a hard time believing they would do that without making any mention of Prime 4. They did that for Prime 1. I don't think they can do it again. So with that, I feel that with a February Direct, while I would want them to show Prime 4, I think it's a safe. Safe. I'm not sure if anything is safe, but I think it's a good prediction to say that we're going to at least hear about Metroid Prime 4 in a Nintendo Direct in February. Now, if Nintendo announces a Direct Mini, don't expect Metroid Prime 4. If they announce a General Direct, I would say expect Prime 4. That's how I'm operating personally. That's my train of thought. And so I think we'll see Prime 4 in the Direct. That's like my ultimate prediction. And the extra reasoning behind that is, one, I think, looking at how things happen for Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild, 2 cross-gen games, we knew about them before we got the cross-gen updates. I think from that perspective, it makes some sense to showcase Prime 4 before then. But perhaps even more importantly, once Switch 2 is showcased, the big game they're probably going to show alongside the system is 3D Mario. And so if we're getting both Metroid Prime 4 and 3D Mario during the launch window of Switch 2, you probably want to showcase them at different points initially, because 3D Mario would overshadow Metroid Prime 4. So I think maybe showcasing Metroid Prime 4 in a February Direct, then putting out a Switch 2 teaser sometime between, March or April or something like that. And there they have little clips of different games, including Prime 4 and also 3D Mario. And then in the June Direct or presentation, it's a full-on Switch 2 blowout. We get all the details. They show us Metroid Prime 4, but 3D Mario has the big reveal because that game needs more details to be shown, and we would already have gotten some good information on Prime 4 in this hypothetical February Direct. So I'm thinking right now, honestly, we do see Prime 4 in the Direct, but at the same time, I could see a scenario where Nintendo just waits until Switch 2. So I would say the safe expectation, again, maybe it's still not even that safe because you never really know, but my expectation is latest we see Metroid Prime 4 this June, but I'm feeling so daring as to say that we might even see it next month. So we'll see what actually happens, but that's kind of what I've been thinking. We have a super chat here from Sky Swords Alyssa. Thank you very much for the super chat, Alyssa. And Alyssa says, I missed your question if that was a Zelda puzzle in the frame behind me on Nate's stream. And yes, I have all Usapali Zelda puzzles -1 all framed. Oh, that is awesome. So let me see. Slight behind the scenes here. You see that frame right there of Super Metroid? That's also a puzzle. I put it together and it's framed. I'm very happy with it. And that is the whiteboard of secret video ideas. They're not that secret. I've already talked about them pretty much. So, yep. But thank you for telling me that, and thank you for the super chat. All right, so moving on with the chat here. Nintendo Prime. Were you offline for a little bit? That's happened to me several times the last couple of weeks. It sucks. I don't know what's going on. The Joker, Andres, is already said to be false. We're talking about the rumor that I said was false from the beginning. Yep, I agree. Cranston, no, Andres, how are you going to edit out and censor the F words 4chan users use? Well, one, I didn't notice them. I wasn't looking for them. But also, two, a couple of years ago, YouTube first forced a whole bunch of content creators to designate what audience their channels are for, right? And so I said my channel is not for kids. I'm not trying to appeal to children. So in theory, you might see a curse word. You might see something explicit on this channel. I don't really try and advertise that. That is not what I do, but it is possible. Yeah, I will say that during edited videos, it's extremely unlikely that would happen. During a live stream, it's also unlikely, but in the random circumstances where I may share some imagery for the point of discussing, a leak, or a fake leak, right? I'm going to share some things. So it is the internet. These things exist. Also, like if someone comes on my show, they can curse. I would suggest not to be obscene about it, right? But sometimes I'll curse. It's happened. Actually, it's funny. If you go back and watch my live reaction to the first trailer for Tears of the Kingdom, back when we just knew it as a sequel to Breath of the Wild, so back in 2019, right? That was 5 years ago, almost 4.5 years ago. Brandon was watching it with me, and while I wasn't cursing really, he was just dropping F-bombs the entire time. It was hilarious. Giancarlo asks me, Game Explainer already done an analysis of Princess Peach Showtime. They already predicted Cowgirl Peach and Ninja Peach is real. Exactly, right? So the leak saying those things doesn't really tell us much because people already knew that. Exactly. Fire Marshal Bill. Switch 2 will be announced in June, beginning of the fiscal quarter with an end of the following quarter release. Nothing will be announced to be coming out past May. Okay, we'll see what happens. DOS, solar power switch accessory to extend battery. An interesting feature. Brony Pony Productions. Andres, do you think the Thousand Year Door will get its release date revealed on Twitter, or will it get a showcase in direct, maybe showing off more chapters, especially 3 since it's a fan favorite? So, my expectation for Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is that we're going to get the release date confirmed during the Nintendo Direct in February. I think it's too far out for us to get a trailer on it, but I think we'll get an update on it in the Direct. And I don't think it's far out, just for the record. I think it's coming out sometime between May and like August. But yeah, that's when I expect to get an update on the game during the Direct. I think any sort of trailers we're going to get from Nintendo are going to be about Princess Peach Showtime, Mario vs. Donkey Kong. That's pretty much it. And then third-party stuff. We might get an update on the Splatoon 3 DLC. I could see that. But outside of those things, and maybe some sort of NSO stuff potentially, I think the Direct's happening on February 7th, right? So I kind of talked about this in my video today, right? So if you want my reasoning on that, you can see the video. But yeah, we're just 2 weeks away. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. All right. I think we're close. I can't read every chat, right? But I am trying to get through. And then I'm going to get into the launch lineup for Switch 2. Darcy asks me, what's your underrated anime recommendation? That's a good one. Underrated anime, right? So it can't be something popular like One Piece, Naruto, Bleach. Jujutsu Kaisen's popular. My Hero Academia is popular. Demon Slayer is popular. Okay, I got one. There's one that comes to mind, and I think it's not like super, super, super unknown. Like if you're an avid anime fan, you probably have heard of it. But if you're just like a casual anime fan, you've only watched like some of the more popular ones, you haven't seen this, and I think it's extremely good. Steins Gate. Steins Gate is really good. It's like what, like 26 episodes, beginning to end. That's the whole story. There's no second season or anything like that. But it's a really good, all encapsulating story. And it has to do with a lot of time travel and science fiction elements that are really cool. It's a fun one. So I definitely recommend Steins Gate. That's definitely an underrated anime. Also, the opening theme, it is it's infectious. Yeah, I'm just playing in my head right now just thinking about it. It's very good. Kevin Bacon strip. Whatever happened to Zelda, Twilight Princess, and Wind Waker? Nintendo left them in a closet or storage room somewhere, or on a file on someone's computer, and haven't done anything about it. So you know, we'll we'll probably get it eventually. I think there's a chance to see it this year, but basically, I think Nintendo's just saving it for a window of time where they don't have a Zelda release ready. And so conceivably that happens this year. But if they have a 2D Zelda remake ready, then they would do that instead. Potentially, the Ocarina of Time remake could come out this year instead, although I think it's a later thing. So I'm not expecting that. But, it's going to be a while between, now on the next brand new mainline 3D Zelda game. Like, a game that's probably going to take 5 to 7 years to make. So there's going to be ample opportunity for Nintendo to pop those out. I guess the big question is, does it come out sooner than later, and does it release for Switch? And I think it will release for Switch. They were Wii U games. Not hard to get it running on the system. Unless one of the crazy things about Switch 2 is that it does indeed have a second screen. And so they actually don't change Wind Waker and Twilight Princess that much because it has basically all the Wii U features. That would be kind of nuts. I don't believe that, but I'm just throwing it out there. Francesco Negroni asks me, if Metroid Prime 4 is good, would Nintendo do have a Metroid film? I heard from a YouTuber they have some kind of film lineup, but he said that he's worried because they could adapt it for kids. Adapting Metroid for kids would be a dumb idea. So I hope that's not the case. I'd also be worried. And the thing is, Nintendo kind of did that for Metroid. Metroid Prime Federation Force had a chibi art style. And I think in part that was because they were trying to appeal to a larger audience. And it did not work out well for them. So I think they learned their lesson with that one. And I think, in truth, Nintendo has a better understanding of how to utilize their IP now than before. And it's sticking true to what the IP is about, right? Zelda's about adventure, Mario's about fun and platforming. And so, you see that in the Mario movie. We see that with the Zelda games. With Metroid, I think it is about exploration and mystery and spookiness, right? And this atmosphere. And so Metroid Dread delivers on that. And so I would expect that with a Metroid movie, they would also do that, especially considering that Metroid was inspired by the horror movie Alien. So to make a Metroid movie and to make it child friendly, that would be so tone deaf. It would just be one of the. I would call that stupid. I would actually call that stupid. Yeah. I don't think they're going to do that. Now, is it possible they may structure a Metroid movie in a way where it appeals to maybe teens, right? That's different. Like you can have a spooky, creepy movie with some shocking moments that still appeals to teenagers, right? And it's not like bloody and gruesome. Like you can still do that, but we're not talking about a movie that's going to be for 6-year-olds. That's just not going to be the case. No. All right. Having Hope asks, how's Ruby? She's doing well. I do plan on bringing Ruby over before the stream is done. Now, I understand last time I streamed, I was in a rush because I was jumping onto Nate's stream. So, I will not be doing that tonight, right? So I won't feel rushed, so I'm less likely to forget. But if you guys could just remind me in the chat before the stream ends, hey, make sure to bring over Ruby if I have not brought it over yet. My intent is to bring over Ruby, my cat, if you don't know. And so I'll show her on stream. We'll see if I can get her to play around a little. But that is kind of the plan there. All right, Brony Pony asks, what do you think the Switch 2 will be called? I think it'll just be called Switch 2 so they can use the tagline Switch 2 something bigger or something like that. Ooh, switch to something bigger. That's a good one, especially with the screen size reportedly being 8 inches long, or lengthwise, like angularly, the way they measure screen sizes. That would be cool. I do actually think that Switch 2 would be a fine name. I know a lot of people that think that Nintendo wouldn't do Switch 2 because you look at the history of Nintendo and they always kind of do different things. But I also think we have to take into consideration that this Nintendo is not the same Nintendo from the past. And I think the formula that they've established with Switch is something that is repeatable. It's not like the Wii where, oh yeah, we had the success with the Wii, or like with the Nintendo DS, right? Where these really fun, novel ideas and they obtained a lot of success, that it was like a lightning in the bottle situation where a lot of those people moved on to other things. But people playing Switch 2 are still not Switch 2. People who are playing Switch are still playing Switch. So I think it does make sense to do something that is iterative and continue that, right? I think the kind of success Switch has had is something that can be maintained. It's repeatable. So if there was ever a time to start adopting the number system, it's now. That said, Nintendo may still come up with a name that in some way implies it's next gen without actually using a number. What they choose, that's tough. There's a lot of options. A lot of people think that they would have a name that would be tied to whatever big innovation they have. But the problem with that is that no reports we actually have tell us about anything crazy innovative in terms of like weird controls or anything like that. If it's innovative, it's because it's such a significant power boost and it's using AI upscaling to make games look a lot better and run better. Like that is innovation, but through its hardware. And so how will that change? Like I don't know how you market that, right? In a way that's like, oh, well, this is the Switch I, which would be bad. The Switch AI, which would still be bad. Switch 4K would also suggest it's not a next-gen console. So, it's tricky, right? I threw out the idea like a year ago that what do they call the system? Switch Nova. Like, that's just like a name. Almost sounds like nuevo, like Spanish for new. Nova, like the sun, shiny, ray tracing. I don't know. It's a dumb idea. But, I don't know. Some people like the idea of Super Switch, and Nintendo has done that in the past, but that was back in the 90s. It's not the 90s anymore. It's 2024. So I don't know. And the thing is, if they do Super Switch, and then they then decide they want to do another iteration because they found equivalent success to Switch, or even better success, how do they follow that up? Do they call it the Super Switch 2? Do they call it the Super Duper Switch? So I feel like if you go with the name Super Switch, you're putting yourself in a corner from a naming perspective. So it's tough. Yeah, so that's why I keep circling back to Switch 2, but I also acknowledge the possibility that Nintendo may have another name. Anyway, I'm not going to spend the whole show trying to guess Switch 2 name, because I've done that before, and it's a slippery slope. All right, Maki Mario asks me, what do you think the chance Nintendo announces Switch 2 a week after Princess Peach Showtime? They had a big announcement of the delay for Zelda last March. Could happen. Yeah. That maybe, right? I think the announcement happened sometime in March. I don't know if they would care too much about when Princess Peach Showtime comes out. Maybe just make sure it's not in the same week. Because I feel like people playing Princess Peach are not gonna not play Princess Peach just because Switch 2 was announced. I don't think I don't think that. But when does Peach come out? Let me double check. Peach Showtime release date March 22. Right, so March 22 comes out on Friday. Like, I could see them announce. Yeah, I mean, it's the last full week of the month. It's leading up to the end of the fiscal year. That's not a bad time, right? It would fall in line with my prediction. And there are rumors suggesting something's happening in March, so could be then. Could even be maybe a week or two before then that it's announced, right? So those are all possibilities. We'll see. Heck, maybe even February. There has been a lot of discussion lately about retailers prepping for Switch 2 pre-orders, right? Last week we talked about, from Friday, we talked about Mecha Japan officially opening up pre-orders for Switch 2. It's all out of stock, so you can't really do anything about it, but technically it's up, right? But also from Nintendo Leaks, they had heard that 2 Spanish retailers are also preparing for Switch 2. It's not public information, right? That's their inside information that they heard, right? So it's a rumor. And then recently, I don't know how much I make of this because I haven't been able to verify it for myself, and I don't know about the track record, but I'll put it on it's a rumor as well, right? Mike Odyssey went to a GameStop, and apparently the supervisor there said no comment when asked about Switch 2, implying that maybe he knows something about Switch 2. I personally just feel like it's odd that you can just walk into a GameStop and ask a random supervisor that question, and they would tell you something, you know. So I'm skeptical. But then apparently Nintendo Prime went out and did the same thing, and so I don't know. But like, if that is the case, and again, I'm not sure it is the case. It's a rumor, right? But if it is the case that there are these different retailers in the United States and Spain and Japan, apparently someone in Chile as well, which again, rumors, right? So take this all with heaps of salt or just a grain or two. I don't know. Don't believe it fully. But if it is the case that retailers are hearing something now and are prepping for Switch 2, gearing up for an announcement, right? If the system is to be announced in March, that's when pre-orders would open up worldwide, right? Officially, by all the big companies. And so maybe that's why GameStop and these Spanish retailers are supposedly preparing for Switch 2, because we're within a month or two of announcement. Something to keep in mind. We'll see. The Emma52 here in the chat says Nova is Latin for new. It's where Nova comes from. That makes sense. I don't know if that's why I came up with the idea way back when. I forgot, but if not, it's a funny coincidence, right? Hey, Switch new, Switch Nova. It sounds cool. Of course, I'm gonna fight for my idea. Sam Talks Games with a super chat. After the super chat, we're gonna get into the Switch 2 lineup. Thank you for the super chat, Sam. Sam says F-Zero, SNES, Donkey Kong Country, or F-Zero X. Can't choose which one to play next. F-Zero X. F-Zero X. Yes, definitely F-Zero X. Donkey Kong Country is a good choice as well, but F-Zero X. Do it. That's it. If 2 of the 3 games were F-Zero, I think you're leaning more towards F-Zero in general anyway. And if I have to choose between F-Zero SNES and F-Zero X, I would say F-Zero X, especially because we already have F-Zero 99 that's an adaptation of F-Zero SNES. So F-Zero X. All right. All right. Just like spat on my mic. All right, we're good. Okay. So this insanely good Switch 2 lineup. What am I getting at here? Is this nothing? Or is this something? So first off, how would Nintendo not have a strong lineup for their next-gen console? They saw how that worked for Switch. And you would think, in general, a game company would come out with as strong of lineup as possible. But of course, there have been times when Nintendo hasn't had a great lineup to start off a system. But I don't think this is that time. I think in the past, Nintendo has struggled balancing things out. You know, they were spreading themselves too thin while developing for two different systems. I think you know, they suffered a lot of delays and game droughts, and so their game output was just never good enough. That's not the time now. That's just not how it is now. We don't have game droughts now. That's a thing of the past. Doesn't exist. Some of you may not even understand what I'm getting at here. We used to get like 3 or 4 Nintendo games a year. Now we get like 16 games a year. It's so different. Like, you don't have gaps. Now, you know, Nintendo's output was spread between 2 consoles, right? So it was actually more than 3 to 4. But the point is, it sometimes felt like that. And if the game in a particular season you got wasn't the game you liked, then you'd be waiting for half a year before you would get something you liked, or sometimes longer. So droughts for prior Nintendo systems were harsh sometimes. It's not like that anymore. Games come out every month. Even in this transition phase, like, games come out every month. They're focused on one platform now. Their development ecosystem has gone so strong now, so healthy. They have a lot of partners involved. They smartly make a lot of remakes and remasters in conjunction with a lot of their new projects as well. So they have just such a good balance now. They're ahead of the curve, and it's insane because we keep hearing about Nintendo sitting on games. Apparently, Fire Emblem Engage was like done for a year. Metroid Prime Remastered was done for a year and a half before release. Tears of the Kingdom was basically done in March of 2022. Metroid Prime 4 hasn't released yet, but we have now proof that they've been quality testing since March of 2023. They sit on games. That's what they do. That's just how good their development ecosystem is now. They had Advance Wars ready, and they delayed that game like a year and a half just because of the war situation, and they didn't want to offend anyone. Even though I think most of us agree Advance Wars 1-2 Reboot Camp wouldn't have offended anyone. Meanwhile, Call of Duty has no problem coming out, right? Call of Duty is far more offensive than any Advance Wars game would be. Nintendo just has the ability to do this. They sit on games, they save games, and I bring that up because they're not behind the curve when it comes to development, right? If there's anything that's going to hold back a solid Switch 2 lineup, it's not getting games ready, because the games are going to be ready. Nintendo's ahead of the curve in that department. Hardware is maybe the question, right? But some have been arguing that Switch 2 would have already been out if it wasn't for the hardware delays that ultimately stem from COVID. Hard to prove, but that's the arguments people have made. Point is, Nintendo's going to have games ready. They're going to have a strong lineup. They saw how great it was for Switch, and now more than ever, they should be even more ready than they were for Switch to have a strong lineup. And we see that they have been smart about their lineups recently. They're putting a lot more remakes and remasters now. Those are outsourced projects for the most part. It affords them more time and resources to focus on, making new games for the next generation console. They've been getting ready. And so when we finally start to see some of these games, it's going to be extremely exciting. So let's talk about the Switch 2 launch lineup. I'm going to share something with you. This comes from, I don't know why I did that. I did the wrong, here we go. Nope. Present, not invite. All right. There we go. So, some of you may be familiar with Christopher Dring, right? He's a big dude. He's the head of the games industry.biz. He's considered a very reliable person. Now, these are his predictions, so this isn't a report. I Want to get that straight, right? So don't assume this to mean that he knows this is what's going to happen. These are his predictions. But I'll explain what we're talking about as predictions in a moment. Some of you may already be aware. But here are his predictions for Switch 2. They actually align up a lot with my own predictions. Nintendo to tease Switch 2 before end of March, possibly next Direct, but I think standalone. And so my prediction has been we'll see a Switch 2 announcement of some kind, some sort of official word by the end of March 31st. So there we go. But his next prediction, full reveal in summer. I agree. We typically see big summer showcases from Nintendo in June. I think this time it's just going to be dedicated to Switch 2 in June. Launch in September with new Mario. I've been talking about Switch 2 coming out by the end of summer, and technically the end of summer is September 22nd. So the majority of September. And so I would say, yeah, that's definitely feasible. He's saying launching with Mario. I've been arguing lately Metroid Prime 4 instead, but you know, we've heard from other people that Mario would be the launch title, and I'm totally okay with it being Mario. Like it's one or the other, really. And so, yeah, I think it's a solid prediction, but it is a prediction. Let me put that out there. He then here says Mario Kart 9 in October. This I don't agree with. I've told you guys I think the next Mario Kart's coming out at the end of the fiscal year, right? So still in this well, it's actually next fiscal year technically. That would start April 1st, but by the end of March 2025, I think we'll see the next Mario Kart game like out and available. But no, I don't think October. We'll see though. And then here he says cross-platform Pokemon in November. What's interesting about this one is that Pokemon has a history of holding back and not putting their games on the new gen console immediately. They usually wait a year or two. However, I do agree actually with this prediction here. I actually do think that the next Pokemon game is going to have some sort of adapted version for Switch 2, like a graphics patch enhancement, something like that. Maybe even a separate version. Something like that will be done, I think. And a lot of it culturally comes down to how Nintendo's handling Switch 2 this time around. But those are his predictions. They're not facts. That's not a report. It's not even a rumor. However, Necrofelipe, right? He's been pretty active lately. He says this. I don't think we'll be too off besides next Mario Kart number being 10 and not 9, but I guess that Mario Kart will come only in 2025 and a new 3D should arrive first. So basically, everything here that I said sounds right except for Mario Kart. Necrofelipe is saying pretty much the same thing. You know, Necrofelipe does have inside information. He's not reporting exactly, could also be his own estimations, but it's educated speculation, right? Informed speculation. And so that's kind of like what some of these insiders sort of think. And I align with that for the most part. I'm optimistic Switch 2 comes out even sooner than September, but let's operate under the assumption Switch 2 comes out in September. And let's also take the L on predicting Metroid Prime 4, hypothetically taking the L. So until it's proven, we'll see, right? But let's take the L on Prime 4 not being a launch title, right? And let's say they do launch Switch 2 in September with 3D Mario. I think, even though I've made the argument that perhaps they would need to spread out Mario a little bit, if most of the Mario stuff comes out in the first half of the year, right? If we're divided by like a couple months, then I think it would be fine. And they could still have 3D Mario come out in September, right? If the last Mario releases in July, let's say that's Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, right? And Luigi's Mansion 2 is June or something like that, or May, like that's fine. I think that would be honestly okay. And so, yeah, 3D Mario could maybe be a September release. I buy that, right? I could see that. I can also see October, right? And then something else before then, but let's just operate under this assumption, right? And so what happens in October? I don't think it's Mario Kart. As I've told you guys, I think Mario Kart, they would wait a little bit. The Booster Course Pass just came out, you know, especially if we're already talking about this Mario density issue already. We have what? We just got Mario Wonder. We just got Mario RPG. we're getting Mario vs. Donkey Kong next month, Princess Peach Showtime in March, and then we have Luigi's Mansion 2 and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door coming out really soon after. They've both been rated by the ESRB. They gotta space things out a little bit. So 3D Mario's coming out in September. I just don't see a scenario where Mario Kart then comes out November, right? Because, you know, if that's the case, then at this point you might as well just call the Nintendo Switch 2 Nintendo Switch Mario. Like, that's the name of it, Nintendo Switch Mario. Oh, have you played the Nintendo Switch Mario? It just has Mario games. Like, that's what it is. Like, I mean, I would buy it, right? It'd be great, but we need other things. So I think that they're going to space it out. The Booster House Patch just came out. Mario Kart is a huge, huge heavy hitter, right? So they do need it out early. But I think they'll space it out somewhat. And so I do think it'll come out by March 2025. And so what comes out between 3D Mario hypothetically in September and Mario Kart in March of 2025, right? You still have October, November, December, January, February. Well, you know, it'd be a good game for October, a game that has launched around these times in the past that would fit the spooky month. A game that we've already talked about this live stream making sense to be spooky and creepy because its inspiration was Alien, a horror movie. Yes, I'm talking about Metroid, and I'm not talking about just any Metroid. I'm talking about Metroid Prime 4. So I think, you know, 3D Mario September, Metroid Prime 4 launching for both Switch and Switch 2 in October makes a heap amount of sense. It would be a very good idea. Now, I kind of feel that Metroid Prime 4 should maybe come out a week or two on Switch 2 first. Very much how they handle it for Twilight Princess. And it's a visually enhanced version, but for those who want to wait a couple weeks, you get it on Switch still running well at $60 as opposed to $70 on Switch 2. That's kind of what I've been speculating, something like that. But I think that could make a lot of sense. So maybe Metroid Prime 4 in October, and then November is going to be Pokemon. And I do think they'll have a cross-platform for release. Like, I think that makes sense. And so these are things I've kind of already speculated on beforehand, right? But is that really enough? Do you want to launch a system with 3D Mario and then have a cross-gen title in October and then another cross-gen title in November? What about exclusives? I think we need more exclusives for Switch 2 than that, right? Like, I think having two cross-gen titles in the holiday, that definitely does a good job of keeping Switch fans still engaged, making them feel that, you know, that Switch 1 owners, like, it not leaving them for the dust because they are very important. And that makes sense. But I do think you need more exclusives, right? So initially, you know, when I made my Prime 4 prediction, if Prime 4 is a launch title, right, I think there would have to be I still think there would have to be another game. And so maybe we see a scenario where it's not even one game per month, right? There's a little bit of extra stuff squeezed in there. So maybe either there's 2 day one titles for the Switch 2, one being Mario, but the other maybe being, I throw out the idea of a Nintendo Land game, right? Or something like Switch Sports, but a new thing like that. And I've predicted that we're going to see the return of Street Pass, right? So maybe a new multiplayer game that takes advantage of the motion controls on Switch 2, but also maybe the social media features or the Street Pass features. That would be really cool. And so I think they could fit into something like that will be exclusive to Switch 2 in that first month. Might make a lot of sense, right? Like, maybe even like we're looking at a scenario where instead of a game coming out every month, it's a game coming out every 2 to 3 weeks. So they can fit in a few more games to close out the year. And so I'll just say Nintendo Land 2 just because it makes me feel better, and I would like to see that series return, but there's a lot of possibilities there. But some kind of game like that. And so I think that kind of makes some sense, right? But then what about December? Like, what kind of game could we get in December? And this is what I would like to take it to you guys in the chat. What game would be the ideal December game? When Switch came out in 2017, it was Xenoblade Chronicles 2. What is the best Nintendo published game for December? All right, so I'm looking at right. I haven't filled out the options yet, right? But based on what you guys say in the chat, right, I'm going to put that in. Now, keep in mind, right, if I'm already suggesting Pokemon always comes out in November, right? So like, I'm not gonna put Pokemon for December because I'm already assuming we're getting Pokemon in November, right? But I'm seeing some of you guys put out Star Fox. So Star Fox in December, okay, right? I see some of you throwing out Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. I feel like that's a 2025 release, right? But you know what? You guys are putting it, so I'm going to list it here. What others? We need more. Let's try and get at least 2 more. You know what? How about... I don't have enough. I don't have enough space. Also, I don't know how to spell published, apparently. I just forgot to put an H. Don't say Smash Ultimate. Smash Ultimate Deluxe. Guys, I want new games. I feel like I need new games. So, do we really think, like, so I think that, you know, if we're going to have 2 cross-gen titles, I think we need some, like, new games on Switch 2 early on. It can't just be, you know, remakes and remasters still. And actually, Xenoblade Chronicles X would be a remaster. So I'm gonna make an executive decision. I'm not saying it can't be Xenoblade X, but I'm just going to change it to Monolith Soft IP, which could be Xenoblade, but it also could be a new IP. Monolith Soft game. Xenoblade X, or I'll put XEX X Xenoblade. I don't know. Xenoblade Chronicles X or new IP in parentheses. There we go. Okay. All right, I'm looking here. You guys are saying stuff. All right, DW for Smash is saying F-Zero. I like F-Zero. It's a racing game. You know, I do like the idea of getting a racing game a few months out before Mario Kart, right? Honestly, I would prefer F-Zero to come out before December, but let's put that in there. All right, F-Zero. I'm gonna call it RX. If you guys saw me on Game Explained, that was a thing I suggested. All right, so I got Star Fox, got a Monolith Soft game, be it Xenoblade Chronicles X or a new IP. Got F-Zero RX. From Software Kid Icarus. Okay. Let's go. From Software Kid Icarus. Made by From Software, baby. All right, let's have fun with this. Sure. Oh, man. Okay, so all right, we'll do another poll for January and February games. All right, there's the poll. Let's see how this goes. Donkey Kong would have, you know, is another one, right? Animal Crossing, you know, I think would also be like a really fine game to get out soon, but I don't know if it would be out those first few months. I think they would wait a little bit. We never really see Animal Crossing come out immediately. That doesn't mean they can't do it, but I think they need a little bit of time, right? Because the developers of Animal Crossing are the developers of Splatoon, and Splatoon 3 is still pretty recent, right? They're still doing the DLC, and that's coming out this year in like a month or two or something like that, right? So I would assume Animal Crossing wouldn't be ready by the end of the year. And so far, right? We got that Monolith Soft game. It's at 41%. You know, I thought Star Fox would have this one. Star Fox at 28%. So while you guys do the poll, you know, I'll take some more questions and super chats and things of that nature. But let me talk a little bit about both Star Fox and Donkey Kong while I wait for some more questions to come in and while the poll develops. So let me see if I can try and sum up all the Star Fox evidence we have. And for the record, I've seen people attack me for this before. And so I just want to clarify. I don't think everyone understands how definitions work or the definitions of everything. But there is a difference between evidence and proof. Okay. Evidence is supporting information or data that can support your theory or hypothesis. It doesn't confirm it. It doesn't prove it. It helps to build the case for it, right? And so that's what evidence is. So if you have evidence for something, that doesn't mean something is for sure going to happen, but it may strengthen your belief in it happening. Proof is less tentative. When you have proof that's supposed to say, well, okay, now you kind of know that this is something, right? So I would say, and it can at times feel a little blurry because where you're like, oh, does this prove something, right? Like at one point is something proven. And so there's a little bit of debate there. But for example, right, when Nintendo announces Nintendo Switch 2, that's proof, right? When we see literally a Nintendo Switch 2 trailer on Nintendo's official YouTube channel, that's proof that Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out, right? Evidence is when we have, say, interviews of different developers excited for Nintendo's new console in 2024. That's evidence. Doesn't prove it, but it supports the idea of it happening. So there's a difference there. And so sometimes, I'll make a video. I don't think I ever really talk about anything being proven, right? Or having proof, but having evidence, right? And so there's a difference. That said, let's talk about the evidence for Star Fox. For a Star Fox game to be in development. And this is all off the top of my head, right? But I made a video on it about a week or so ago, and then some new things came up over the last day or two. So I don't remember the source exactly. But is it V Hooper or Film Scooper? Something like that on Twitter. There is someone who provides inside scoops on movie stuff, right? And they basically, I kind of feel like I should actually get the source. I feel like I should remember the actual name of the source. So I can pull it up in a second. So give me a moment here. One momento. I want to actually be able to cite the actual source on this. For those that don't know, typically I put the sources for new stuff in my videos when I talk about them, at least for the first time. It is V Scooper. Okay, so V Scooper said that there may be that Nintendo is considering, instead of maybe a Donkey Kong film, Nintendo may not do that and instead maybe more focused on Star Fox and other Mario projects. So that implies Nintendo has some sort of film of Star Fox in mind. And so that you might ask yourself, whoa, why? That is a rumor, right? But why would Nintendo be working on a Star Fox movie, right? And so Nintendo would only be working on a Star Fox movie if they have bigger plans for the brand, right? So that then, begs the question, what else might they be doing? And so what's interesting about this is that we actually also heard from, I believe, Christopher Dring. We brought him up earlier. He put out an article where he's heard that Nintendo is actually talking to different other developers, so not Nintendo developers. And he's heard of at least 3, I believe, that Nintendo's already in talks with to make games. And so the implication here is that they'll be making Nintendo games, right? Nintendo will be outsourcing. And so what's fascinating about this is that we actually, if we look at the history of Star Fox, every single Star Fox game, except for the original Star Fox 64, has been an outsourced project. And Nintendo in general, when they're talking to other developers to work on games for them, we're not talking about The Legend of Zelda. We're not talking about Super Mario or Pokemon. We're talking about, spin-offs of those, sure, but not the mainline entries, right? And we're talking about some of Nintendo's lesser-known IP. and Star Fox is indeed one of them. But also, Star Fox sold over 4 million on Nintendo 64. A console that's only sold about 33 million systems. That's a really high number for such a small amount of people who own that system. Point being is that maybe Star Fox has more sales potential than we give it credit for, right? So, of all the lesser known IP, maybe Star Fox is one Nintendo should revisit. So, anyways, point is, we know that Nintendo's in talks with at least 3 different developers to work on something, and so those are probably spin-offs or lesser-known Nintendo IP, and Star Fox would be a strong candidate. But what's also interesting is that we know that Bandai Namco is working on a few different Nintendo projects as well, and we don't know if Bandai Namco is a part of the teams that Christopher Jim was talking about, and I'm going to say that it isn't, because the way the article is framed is talking about new developers, right? Not already existing partnerships, like with Bandai Namco. And Bandai Namco has a few different job listings, one of which shows for a 3D action game. And if we go back like a year or two ago, they actually had a job listing that said a remaster. So some people have been thinking that maybe Nintendo's going to remaster either Kid Icarus or Star Fox. And so that may be the case. But the recent job listings don't even say remaster on Bandai Namco's page. So it might be just a brand new game. And when we just talk about genres of Nintendo IP, there's only 2 that come to mind that satisfy the genre of 3D action. Like, if we're actually sticking true to what that is, the only 2 are Star Fox and Kid Icarus. And it only includes Kid Icarus because of Kid Icarus Uprising, which is basically a Star Fox game, but Kid Icarus style. So it's interesting. There's a good chance Bandai Namco could be developing Star Fox something, right? Now, beyond that, we recently observed that in Nintendo Switch Sports, it's actually apparently this info came out a while ago, right? But it's resurfaced in the talks, and I didn't know about it until now. In the Switch Sports code, there are several parts that say Star Fox in there, which is very odd. And so it's leading people to believe that Nintendo was working on something Star Fox related behind the scenes, and some of that code was left in Nintendo Switch Sports, another internal Nintendo project. But then beyond that, recently Necrofelipe observed that Nintendo filed new trademarks for Princess Peach and Star Fox. We're obviously getting Princess Peach Showtime now, but could this imply that a Star Fox game is around the corner? I would be hesitant to say it's around the corner just because, you know, with trademarks, we've seen those happen in the past and nothing materializes immediately. But you don't know for a fact. It could happen soon. So all of these different things have kind of come up, and they all seem to support the idea that Star Fox is a good chance, right? And when I think about Star Fox, it's, again, I think it has a lot of sales potential, right? But we look at this new console that's coming out, it would make sense to give Star Fox a grand opportunity fresh and early on for this system. They only gave us Starlink like content, you know, that wasn't really much Star Fox content for the Switch era. And they actually closed out the Wii U era in 2016 with Star Fox Zero. So I would say we're actually overdue for Star Fox, right? So I would say we're probably getting Star Fox on Switch 2, right? Like, normally we'll skip one generation, but we'll never skip 2. And if you account for handhelds, I don't know if we'll really ever skip a generation, right? Because we had Star Fox 64 on Nintendo 64, right? On GameCube, we had Star Fox Adventures, which is a different style of Star Fox, but is a damn good game. We also had Star Fox Assault. So 2 Star Fox games on GameCube. That was amazing. Both I really enjoyed. On Nintendo Wii, it was kind of a missed opportunity. There was no Star Fox game there. I know they had tried to, but it fell through. But on Nintendo DS, we had Star Fox Command, right? So in that gen, we still had Star Fox Command. In the Wii U 3DS era, they had Star Fox Zero, but we also had Star Fox 64 3DS, right? So that was still something. And that had multiplayer. I think it was online, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Could be mistaken. I think it was online. So we've had kind of consistent Star Fox things, right? The only console Nintendo skipped that has 3D capabilities, right? Because Star Fox is a 3D game, is the Nintendo Wii. And they actually had a project. It was just canceled. And before someone catches me, yes, I remember There was the original Star Fox that came out on the Super Nintendo, and then there was also the never released Star Fox 2 until they released it for SNES Mini, and then also on Nintendo Switch Online. But in terms of skipping generations, we've only skipped Nintendo Wii, so and now we're skipping Switch, right? So I don't think we should be skipping another gen. I think Star Fox is going to be happening with everything else we mentioned. I think it's a really good chance. And so maybe Nintendo has a Star Fox in the works, and maybe it's something that they're having ready for Switch 2. And so, if Star Fox ends up being the December game, as it's now winning the poll, maybe I talked it into existence before it was losing here. But I would love to see it. I would love to see Star Fox be there. I can see it being a big multiplayer game with still having an awesome arcade-like campaign. But let's look at this super chat I got here. Taker610, thank you for the super chat, buddy. Andres, are you feeling like the February Direct will be a snoozer? Oracle of Ages Seasons remake could save it, but no switch to a Prime 4 probably. I wouldn't be quick to say no Prime 4 probably, though. I've already made the argument earlier that they may want to showcase Prime 4 now before they show off 3D Mario, because they don't want it to overshadow each other. And if Prime 4 is going to be a cross-gen game, maybe showing it off now for Switch owners, maybe like a teaser trailer, so we don't really see the full-on gameplay, we just have an idea of the game. Maybe that's the right way to go. So I'm not sure. I think it could go either way. But yeah, I basically, as I said earlier, my perspective is this. The Nintendo Direct, if it's called the Nintendo Direct, I will actually be going into it thinking we're getting something Metroid related, which to me boosts the Direct significantly, right? If it's called the Nintendo Direct Mini, I'll be going in with it with very minimal expectations. A few more remaster announcements and some dates. That's what I'll be thinking, and some third-party stuff. And in some ways, I might even prefer a Direct Mini, just so I'll know that it's not going to be a big deal, right? There'll be one or two little things, and that'll be it with some dates. But it'll also kind of signal that a bigger presentation is not far off, probably for Switch 2. So I actually almost want to see a Direct Mini, just so I don't go into a General Direct and I'm disappointed. But if there's a General Direct, I'm going to err on the side of, I think we're seeing Metroid Prime 4. And maybe that is a slippery slope. Maybe that's dangerous. Maybe I'm setting myself up for disappointment. But that's kind of where I'm at with this, right? So I'm not necessarily expecting a snoozer, but your perspective obviously matters here, for sure. And I think one thing that needs to be made clear is that if Nintendo announces a Direct, be it mini or full, if it says this is mostly focused on Nintendo Switch games coming out in the spring, then take them for their word. If you don't take them for their word and you're prepared for other things outside of that, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. There will not be anything for Switch 2. And hey, maybe that even means nothing about Metroid Prime 4. But, they usually have one thing, right? And so I think that'll be the one thing. But I don't know for sure. So we'll see. Now, as I see the poll developing here, Star Fox has a healthy lead with a Monolith Soft game in second place. F-Zero and Kid Icarus have been poo-pooed, unfortunately. Don't worry, F-Zero. Don't worry, Kid Icarus. You'll still get your time. I actually don't think they would be good December releases either, right? I could see Star Fox and Monolith Soft being December releases, oddly, if that makes any sense. I mean, they've done it before with Xenoblade, so I could see that. I'm debating if I should end the poll. I won't. What instead I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit more about Donkey Kong. So, today, right, Negro Felipe talked about Donkey Kong and talked about, well, you just mentioned in a reply that the next Donkey Kong, so that could be a country game. And so if the next Donkey Kong game is not going to be a country game, what does that mean? As I mentioned earlier, it could still be something like Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, where it's a 2.5D Donkey Kong game, right? It has some 3D elements, like with boss fights and maybe scene transitions, which Tropical Freeze technically had some of that too. But Jungle Beat had literal 3D gameplay moments with the boss fights. You didn't move around; you just kind of hit things and ducked and swerved. But they could do something like that. But I'm also going to bring up that there was that canceled Activision project that was codenamed Donkey Kong Freedom, and people made fan films of it afterwards, right? Fan footage. So if you Google this and you see fan footage from the Dreams game, it's not what the rumor's from. It's from before that. Regardless, the project's been canceled. The story has been corroborated from a few different credible places. It was something that actually happened, apparently. But what's cool about it is that Nintendo had actually greenlit in a 3D open world Donkey Kong game where Donkey Kong was going to be sliding on tree branches and stuff, Tarzan style. And so imagine if Nintendo were to actually make a Donkey Kong game. Like, supposedly after that, they just took Donkey Kong in on their own and they started working their own Donkey Kong game. And whatever that becomes, we don't know. But what if they did make a Donkey Kong game that plays like Tarzan? It would even be fun if they did it in 2D. But man, 3D would be like crazy. Like, think about like the Spider-Man games, right, on PlayStation, right? Like it's open world web swinging through skyscrapers. Imagine that, but in a giant thick jungle with vines, but then also you can slide and do like handrail, like kind of grind through like these tree trunks and branches, kind of like how Sonic does in Rails, right? So imagine like a fusion of Sonic Frontiers and Spider-Man 2 into one game. But instead of it being in the city or this random desolate gray island, I've only seen like the first level. I didn't play Sonic Frontiers, but like imagine that, but a beautiful, colorful, large, thick jungle Donkey Kong game. That would be insane, right? But that's just, I don't think I don't know if that's what they're actually working on, but it would be darn cool. And I also think that it's interesting that the park that included the first expansion to Super Nintendo World is the Donkey Kong expansion that's opening this spring. Spring's right around the corner. And so Nintendo hasn't actually announced a new Donkey Kong game yet, right? We had the Mario vs. Donkey Kong thing. It's a Mario game with Donkey Kong in it. That's how I look at it. But it has some new levels. It's a Game Boy Advance remake. It's not a full price game. I don't know if that's really enough to celebrate Donkey Kong, but it is something there. Then maybe that's enough. I don't really think it's enough, right? I think there's more. It's kind of a question of when they show it off, right? And so I do think that's another game that we could potentially see this year, right? Maybe it doesn't come out this year, but we see it. So that's kind of been on my mind, right? And it's another game that could maybe be something Nintendo positions early on for Switch 2. We're talking about Star Fox. What if Donkey Kong's also a part of that, right? So that's something to throw out there. There's another game I want to talk a little bit about, but I got a super chat here, and so I'm going to get to that. Master Detective J2, thank you for the super chat. Master Detective asks, do you think that Metroid Prime 4 will have a subtitle? This is a tough question. Actually, no, it's not a tough question. The answer is yes. It will have a subtitle. Metroid Prime Remastered has a subtitle. It's remastered. But outside of the original Metroid Prime release, and outside of the original Metroid 1 release, every Metroid game has had a subtitle, right? Metroid Samus Returns, Metroid Return to Samus, Metroid Zero Mission, Metroid Prime Remastered, technically, Metroid Prime Trilogy, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, Metroid Fusion, right? Metroid Dread, Super Metroid. I mean, I don't know. It's a little different with that one, but it's the same difference, really. Metroid Other M. And so, yeah, I think the expectation is that it'll have a subtitle. Like that. Yeah, most Nintendo games have subtitles. And so I think there will be a subtitle. I don't think it'll just be Metroid Prime 4. I guess it's a fair question to ask, right? Because you have things like Splatoon 3, right? They just put a 3, Splatoon 2, you know. So I it's a fair question to ask. It's possible. Like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, like they don't have subtitles. So I can see where you're coming from with the number thing, right? Like modern Nintendo, a lot of games don't have subtitles. So that's interesting. But just looking at the Metroid series, they have subtitles. So I expect that for Prime 4. But it kind of makes me think about this idea of them removing the 4. I've argued this in the past. I don't know if they'll do it. I think they may be able to find success regardless. Actually, me thinking of Pikmin, the Pikmin series also doesn't have subtitles. So there's definitely some history there. But anyways, I kind of feel like they would have a greater chance of sales success if they got rid of the numbers. Now, when I say get rid of, I just mean don't feature it prominently, right? Like, for example, Metroid Dread. Keep in mind, 2D Metroid and Metroid Prime are two separate things, right? They don't treat them. The Metroid Prime series falls within the canon technically, but it's Metroid Prime 4 is not Metroid 4. Metroid 4 is Metroid Fusion, and so Metroid Dread is technically Metroid 5. And the game is just titled Metroid Dread, but when they first reveal the title, they're like, it's Metroid 5. And so what I would prefer is they do it the same way. They reveal Metroid Prime 4. They're like, this is Metroid Prime 4 in the trailer. But then at the end of the trailer, they announce the actual name. And it's Metroid Prime, whatever the subtitle is. Metroid Prime, like, Obliteration, or Metroid Prime Reincarnation, Metroid Prime Devastation. I don't know, whatever they choose, some kind of name. Metroid Prime Forsaken, or Metroid Prime The Abyss. I'm just thinking about things. I'm just thinking, The Abyss would be kind of cool. Metroid Prime Abyss. I like it. Think about it. Abyss actually fits really well with Metroid games because it's always about like diving deeper into this planet, into the deeper, darker areas. So Abyss, diving deeper into the abyss. What's in the abyss? That's the mystery. You're going to find out. So I think that'd be kind of cool. So I don't know. But yeah, I think it will have a subtitle. All right. Man, Star Fox and Monolith Soft, it's a back and forth. It's interesting. Star Fox started strong, then Xenoblade or Monolith Soft took the lead, but then I started talking about Star Fox. It took the lead and still has the lead, but Monolith Soft has really gotten close. And so what I'm about to talk about next might defeat Star Fox. And I don't want it to, right? I'm not trying to sway the polls. I'm just talking about these different things. But there's another game I kind of have in mind that will be available, maybe not in the first 3 or 4 months, but within the first year to year and a half. Perhaps sooner, like within the first year. And that's like before the end of 2025 is my main point. And that's the next Monolith Soft game, be it a Xenoblade Chronicles X remake or definitive edition or a new IP that they've been hiring for years. I think something like this could happen. Now, I like what they were doing with Xenoblade Chronicles X. I feel like it was kind of like an MMO without the MMO, right? Like I actually would love to see Monolith Soft dive deeper into this idea and put out an actual MMO for Switch 2. Open world MMO. You play it with your friends. Maybe it's not fully MMO, but it's at least like it's a multiplayer game, an online multiplayer game, right? And so it's fully co-op. I've talked about this idea before, but imagine, Xenoblade games, you typically have a party of 3 to 6, but you control each character individually or just one character while the other characters are controlled by AI or the computer. So in this game, I'm kind of theorizing on like, what if you do that, but instead of it just being yourself, when you're playing online with friends, your teammates are literally your friends and no longer computers. And so you control your own individual character with their own moves and abilities and different things they can do that's complex enough for one person. But then you're actually playing a role in a actual party in Xenoblade. Xenoblade style, at least. Maybe it's not even called Xenoblade, but it's an online open world game with friends. Like that would be a dream game. It would be a dream game, and I think it could do really well if marketed right. Like we see some of these games explode in popularity. I think this game could be something like that. I think it could be the best selling Monolith game ever made. Now, technically, Monolith has helped to develop first Splatoon and Zelda, right? But they're not the main developer. They co-develop those games, so I wouldn't not counting those, just for the record. Yeah, so that's another one. Now, I'm gonna mention one more before I close out the poll, and this one's not in the poll. I mean, neither was Donkey Kong, but we have talked about the Ocarina of Time remake, right? And by the way, I might make another dedicated video or stream about this, but every time I talk about this, there's always people that say the Ocarina of Time 3D is a remake. It's not. I have a lot of evidence to support this, but every time I try and counter this, someone's like, oh, well, that doesn't count because this or that, right? There's always a counter argument. But I recently made a discovery. And by me, I mean, I saw someone mention it in the comments and I looked it up and it's true. The back of Ocarina of Time 3D, it says the game's been remastered in glorious 3D. They use the word remastered. And so if you want to ignore everything else, all the interviews that talk about building upon the source code, right? If you want to ignore the fact that when Numa was asked about an Ocarina of Time remake, and he didn't take the time to say, oh, we already did that back on 3DS, but rather said no comment, leaving it open for debate for something else. The back of the Ocarina of Time 3D says it was remastered. So, game was remastered. It still hasn't been remade. But anyways, yeah. I still buy into the idea that Ocarina of Time can be remade. There's a lot of reasons why I think this. And, typically Nintendo likes to put out some type of 3D Zelda entry early on for a system. And when they already close out a generation with a major Zelda, what they do instead is do some type of remaster or repurposing. Wind Waker HD, Ocarina of Time 3D, right? And so I am predicting that Ocarina of Time is going to be remade, and I think it's coming out in 2025. That's what I think. I've already gone over a lot of the evidence, right? Like literally, Aonuma was asked about Ocarina of Time remake. He just says no comment. To which you may say, oh, well, that doesn't mean much. Except he also was asked recently about a Zelda Dungeon Maker. And he said he shut that down, right? He shut down that speculation, but he would not shut down the speculation for Ocarina of Time remake, which has been rampant lately. And Nintendo's very much aware of these things. So I think it's different. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but that's why you watch the videos. I feel like this is something Nintendo could do. And it would be a great way to, one, bring the Zelda fan base early on, but also it would be something to showcase the system visually, which will help to excite people. And that's kind of one of the big points of this supposed system. So I do think that's something in the cards. And I think it's something that we could even see announced this year, maybe in September, and it comes out sometime in 2025. Now, while I don't believe it, I will entertain the idea of it coming out sooner. Nintendo has done something like this in the past. Super Mario 64 DS was the launch title for Nintendo DS. So, with that in mind, maybe that's what they do, right? It switched to, say, coming out summer or something like that, right? Maybe they want to have that be a launch title and say 3D Mario for the holiday. Especially if you don't think Metroid Prime 4 is a good fit for a launch title. Like those, it's an option. I don't think it's a likely option, but I think it's an option. I think it's safer to expect some type of Zelda remake a little bit later on. Sometime in 2025 is my prediction, but we'll see. So those are just options, right? But I think we kind of touched on a lot of things that could help to really make the lineup exciting, right? We get Mario Kart early on for the system. We start off with 3D Mario. We'll have Metroid Prime 4 cross-gen, maybe some sort of other game like Nintendo Land or Switch Sports made available early on. What if we do get an F-Zero? What if we do get Star Fox? Monolith Soft will likely have a game ready fairly early on. I think it's more likely a 2025 title, personally, but that's still early on, right? That's next year. So I think there's a lot of stuff, right? And some people are bringing up Smash Deluxe earlier. Smash Deluxe, like a Smash Ultimate Deluxe. I think Sakurai is slowing down on his channel. I think he announced he's going to be stopping soon, and so it makes you wonder what's going on, right? And Bandai Namco, one of their job hirings basically describes the gameplay style of Smash Brothers, so it makes you wonder if they're hiring for Smash Brothers. So are they already working on the next Smash Bros. Game? Is this just a deluxe, or is this a whole new Smash game? We always get a new Smash game per generation. So I don't think it's crazy to think that they're already working on the next Smash Brothers, and they probably want to get that out fairly early on for the next system. Smash Ultimate came out 2018. It's already 2024, everyone. Now, I don't think it's a this year thing, but 2025, it would not surprise me if they announce the next Smash Bros. Game. I can see it. I can definitely see it. But anyways, we are approaching the end of the stream, guys. So put in your final questions. I'm going to close out the poll now. See how it ended. It's not ending. It's refusing to end. And so here's the poll. What is the best Nintendo published game for December? Got 114 votes. Now, I'll point out that YouTube always likes to deduct a random percentage point whenever this happens, right? So I think I know which one it should be for. But Kid Icarus, sadly, only came in at 14%. However, I put in parentheticals made by From Software, which I think would be amazing. But it might be one of those things that people have to see in motion before they really, get super excited about it. F-Zero RX at 16%. Y'all don't know what you're talking about. F-Zero will be great. Now, to be fair, I do agree F-Zero and Kid Icarus don't make sense for December. I think those games will have to come out at a different time to be more opportune for them. I mean, honestly, in general, I don't really love December as a month for a big release. But we've seen it happen before. Smash, for example, came out December. Xenoblade came out December. A new IP from Monolith Soft, they've done it before, came in at 30%. And then Star Fox, it says 37, but I'm pretty sure it's actually 38 because of this weird YouTube glitch. So Star Fox is the winner. And man, a new Star Fox game, so good. I hope it has online multiplayer, but I also hope it has an amazing campaign. I just think Nintendo needs to believe in themselves and just make a good Star Fox game. I don't think it's that deep. I don't think it's that crazy. Just make a damn good Star Fox game. Don't hold back. I think it's probably a problem. Like, you look at Star Fox Zero. Granted, the Wii was just not a good time to be ambitious, and I understand that. But Star Fox Zero didn't have multiplayer of any kind, right? It had weird controls that a lot of people did not like. The graphics were bad. Like, there were some artistically nice parts, but it was a low polygon count. It looked like they kind of started the game as like some sort of upscale of Star Fox 64. Like, it was just weird. It was weird how they did that. So Star Fox Zero was just not a good. They just didn't do it justice, and it was basically another iteration of the same story. They've gone through that story several times already. Just make a good Star Fox game. Give us a. It doesn't have to be. If they want to do some sort of cool new ideas, there's a whole bunch out there. You saw what they did with Starlink. Heck, I'll even throw out the idea. Maybe Nintendo co-develops it with Ubisoft. Maybe. Right? Maybe the big Ubisoft game that we get every generation is a Star Fox game. And they have it out early on for the system. You know what? I don't think that's that crazy of an idea. I mean, think about this for a second, right? Ubisoft came out with Red Steel for the Nintendo Wii. Ubisoft came out with Zombie U for the Wii U. Ubisoft came out with Mario + Rabbids for the Nintendo Switch. What if, and after what they saw with Starlink, how the best-selling version was the one with Star Fox content on the Nintendo Switch, and they even took the opportunity to make DLC with additional Star Fox content, maybe they saw that success and they're like, hey, you know what? Let's take this engine of Starlink and adapt it more appropriately for a more concise, more dense, higher quality Star Fox game, and Nintendo will oversee it. They'll co-develop it. Maybe it is our December game. I love the idea, at least, right? It'd be fun. And I bet Ubisoft would love the idea of integrating a significant online multiplayer, right? So it has legs, waves of DLC, keeps it evergreen. Oh, it's exciting to think about. It's exciting to think about. It's just an idea, though. We'll see what actually happens. Watch that be exactly what happens. All right, I'll check in. I'll read a couple chats here, and then I'm calling it a night. Raven Ebony, F-Zero RX, Captain Falcon becomes a doctor. There we go. Doctor of Pain. Ross Russ, good story and good multiplayer would save Star Fox. So good. Pretty much. Kick it smooth. Hot take. The GameCube Star Fox games are good. I agree. Ross Russ is saying, worst part is they delayed for having bad graphics. Are we talking about Star Fox Zero? Really? That's I don't remember that, but if that's true, that's wild. Captain Doge, Nintendo's one of, if not the richest Japanese media company. They have some flexing power, more than some people give them credit for. G_dot. They really shouldn't be afraid. They have original IPs that people go crazy for. PC handhelds cater to a different type of gamer. Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends, right? They want to do some stuff. Oh, Pop Slayer, asks me, don't forget to show Ruby. You're right. I almost forgot to show Ruby. If you didn't remind me, I would have forgotten. All right, let me fetch Ruby. One moment. One quick moment. Be right back. I'm not going to turn anything off. I'm just going to bring her over. Ruby, where you at? You are. Oh, no. Don't run away. I wanted to show you to them. Come back. There she is. I know, you're tired. This is why I don't show her too often, because usually she wants to go to sleep. She's active during the day, and then later at night. But there it is. I showed her. All right, I know. You want to go take a nap. You can sleep on my lap or just go for a run. All right, you do you. But there, I showed her. Hopefully my mic didn't make too much noise when it moved there. There it is. I showed her. I kept my promise. She sometimes likes popping in on her own, but I don't know. Sometimes she doesn't. Just depends. Yeah, she is an Abyssinian for those that are asking. That's her breed. All right. Well, I showed Ruby. We got through the poll. I think I did most of the questions. Aaron's asking, what is Ruby's background? Well, she's an Abyssinian, and I got her from a breeder in Colombia. I literally went to Colombia to get her. And that's it. I mean, you could find breeders in the United States. Just at the time, there was none active. And so I found one in Colombia in a town where I have cousins. And so it kind of worked out. Anyways, I think we did okay, right? I think we did okay tonight. I am planning another stream for the week. I think it'll probably be Thursday. But we'll see what happens between now and then. There may be more news that'll do some things in terms of it'll impact what I decide to discuss on Thursday for the live stream. But I have some ideas. Anyways, everyone, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye.